So this video is about starting over. It's kind of funny because I recorded this whole video and found out that my mic wasn't recording, so I had to start over. But I'm not really starting over. I learned from the first video I made. I wrote this whole script that I was going to follow, and I attempted to follow. But the story I was telling just wasn't very good. So I ditched the script. I know what I want to tell, but I don't know. I thought that was kind of funny. So, my name is Zorro. I'm a musician that is starting over, but I'm not really starting over. Yes, I am starting over with building a new fan base. Um, but I don't have to start over with my career. I'm gonna do a little history lesson now about myself, tell you a bit about my story, how I lost everything, and the reason why I have to start all over. Um, and I should begin with explaining how I got to the point to commit to my music dream. When I was young, I always had this vision of myself standing on a stage. I was always looking at artists and in awe, thinking I would like to do that. Um, but for some reason, I didn't commit. My parents thought it was a funny dream, but always kept asking, "What do you want to be?" And I couldn't really answer. So middle school came around. I live in Europe, so you go to middle school from the age of 12 to 17, 18, depends on what level you do. And the main question in middle school is, what are you going to study when you're done? And I had real trouble getting to that answer, actually, because deep down I knew I wanted to do music, but I hadn't figured out that I needed to. So in middle school, I became depressed because of this reason. I spent a lot of time looking for something that I wanted to do, but couldn't find anything because the only thing I wanted to do was music or entertainment. Um, and the people around me did acknowledge that I had this talent for entertainment and music, but they didn't really consider music to be a real career. So when you went looking for courses to follow or studies to do, music wasn't really one of them. So I was confused. I didn't know what to do because I wanted to do music. So in middle school, I did middle school for 5 years. I spent energy looking for something I wanted to do instead of spending my energy doing what I wanted to do. So I wanted to do music, but I didn't spend my energy doing music. I did play a little guitar, and I sang a little, but not really, you know. Um, and I didn't really develop the skills that I needed to become a musician, to get accepted into a music university or a music school. So when the end of my middle school career came around, I applied for music schools, but got rejected because I just wasn't good enough. I'm not blaming the people around me for my lack of commitment or whatever, but I did waste a lot of my energy finding something that I wanted to do, even though I already knew. Um, it made me very depressed, and I started to look for a way to deal with those feelings, and I started smoking weed when I was 16. Um, and I had this depression from like 14. And when I graduated middle school, I just turned 18. So I got rejected from the universities and took a gap year to orient myself once again into alternative career paths. Um, excuse me. I started working 4 times a week at a local McDonald's, um, orienting myself what I wanted to do. Um, but I kept the flame of my music dream alive. I started to practice more on my guitar. I started to practice producing. Uh, Started to practice singing a little more. Um, but in the year of 2015 to 2016, my depression got worse because I couldn't find the thing that I wanted to do. Um, so the application period for the school year of 2016 came around, and once again I placed my bets on a music school. But my mom and dad insisted that I also applied for a real study at a real university. So I did. I applied for communication multimedia design, but that was my plan B. That wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. Um, Unfortunately, once again, I got rejected from the music schools, which put a dent in my ego and it broke my heart. But I did get accepted into CMD. So in 2016, I started studying communication and multimedia design, a study I didn't really want to do. So my depression got worse because I was doing something that I didn't. I was doing it for my mom, for my dad, but not for me. So I went to school, started the semester, but my mind was always busy with how I was going to drop out one day, um, how I was going to develop myself as an artist. And that's also when Zorro was born, my artist alter ego, or whatever you want to call it. Um, but I was becoming desperate, to do this music thing. I was focusing most of my energy towards music and not towards school. I was doing my homework, but my mind wasn't really in class. I was always busy with music, music, music. How am I going to do this? Whatever. How am I going to be Zorro full time? And in between classes, I went off school grounds to smoke and numb my pain. But then this miracle happened that changed my life for better or for worse. And it might be kind of weird for me to call this a miracle, but hold on. One day, after contemplating my life and doubting my existence, I got home, and my mom had this very worried look on her face, and she told me she had bad news she needed to tell me. So my first guess was that my mom and dad were getting divorced. Turned out that they had found a spot in my dad's lungs that they needed to examine to find out if it was cancer. So it took a couple of weeks for them to find out. So I continued my day-to-day routine, not really, not really being there. This is all a haze for me. And then one day, when I was on my way to school after a few weeks of getting the news that they had found this spot, my mom called me crying, telling me it was stage 4 lung cancer and that my dad had only a couple of months left to live. Um, it didn't really hit me at first, so I continued my journey towards school. But when I got to school, reality started to set in, and I started to realize that I was going to lose my dad soon, and I broke down. Um, my life came to a halt. But at the same time, it felt like I finally woke up from this deep slumber that I was in for years. I finally started to realize that life is too short not to pursue this music dream of mine. So when the news came that my dad was going to die, I this energy came over me, this determination took me over, and I started to focus all the energy that I had on being Zorro, writing music. I had this topic that I could write about. My dad was going to die soon, and my first full song, my debut song, um, got picked up by this prominent radio host here in the Netherlands. And things started to happen. My dad was still around, and I got to do this interview with the radio host, and I got to do a festival, and everything was going good, you know. Um, Things were taking off, but then in February of 2017, my dad died, um, and then I nosedived. Um, Even though things were going well at first, my music just wasn't good enough yet. My first song, if I listen to it now, the lyrics are good, but the production isn't very good. The music isn't very good. My singing wasn't very good. So the momentum I had built up quickly started to fade. My second song came, and the first project that I released wasn't, well, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good enough to sustain myself. You know, the momentum slowed down, even faded away, and I quickly found myself just avoiding reality. I was hyper focused on this Zorro stuff, and I started to push people away because at the number one and two spot of my priorities were my career and smoking weed. So I started to neglect the feelings of the people that were close to me. I didn't listen to their advice. Uh, I didn't listen to their opinions when they had an opinion about me or about my music that I didn't like. I pushed them away and told them that they could fuck off, you know. So I think in a year's time, I really spiraled out of control. I was only Zorro and smoking weed, and before I knew it, I had lost most of my friends. Didn't really see them at all, and I lost my then girlfriend because I couldn't give her what she needed, you know. And then I was alone with this dream. Um, Things got worse. My drug abuse got worse. Um, and the reality of my music career not working out was starting to set in, and I became frustrated, sad, and even angry, most of all angry at myself, but things weren't going the way that I wanted, you know. um, Life didn't wait for me to get my shit together, and luckily my mom was there for me and pushed me to once again apply for a music study, and luckily this time I got accepted into one of the universities, and 3 years of artist development followed. At that school I learned a lot about music business. I even found out that I have a passion for music business as well. I developed myself as a musician, learning how music really works and learning new instruments. I learned how to record music. I learned how to produce music. I learned how to mix songs, the complete package. They learned me how to be an entrepreneur in the music business. But while I was doing the study, um, I was feeling like I was wasting my time because the study was keeping me from making music for myself, because I had all these homework assignments and stuff that I needed to learn on a piano, and theory that I had to learn. So when I got home from school, I couldn't really spend any time on my own stuff, you know. And of course, I was spending a lot of time and energy on getting and using weed. So for 3 years, I went to school, and when I got home, I got in my room, did homework, smoked weed, and didn't really do anything else. Um, the study lasted 3 years, and I learned a lot. But during those 3 years, I my depression became worse. You know, I couldn't really see that I was developing myself as an artist. But the only thing that I saw was that I had obligations that I felt like made me waste my time and put things off. And because I really had this feeling that I needed to get my big break as Zorro right now. You know, my dad died, an important person in my life died, and I was trying to fill up that void and get to a place where I felt like I could replace my dad for my mom. You know, um, so I spiraled out of control, was very unhappy, I couldn't really see the good things that were going on in life. I was very cynical and angry. Um, but I ended up graduating from that school, and I finally felt like, okay, now I'm done. I can spend all this time again writing music, doing my thing. But in those 3 years, besides school, I had this other thing that was controlling my life, and that was my addiction. So when school fell away, when I was finished at school, the addiction was all I had left. So my addiction finally took over. I now realized that school was keeping me from becoming a full blown addict because it gave me obligations. Um, I had stuff to study. I had to show up, so I couldn't smoke all day. But most importantly, it gave me a community of fellow musicians I could interact with, But when school went away, when I graduated, everything everything that was keeping me from being an addict just left my life. And then the only thing I had left was this addiction that controlled me. So um, I graduated in 2020, 3 years after my dad died, and I plunged into this even deeper abyss, even deeper. I was alone. I had this dream, but couldn't really find the energy to do stuff. I was feeling like I was a failure, so I kept numbing my pain with weed. I eventually moved out of my mom's house, and things seemed to go a little better, but I, of course, was dealing with this addiction. So month after month after month, I had less money and less money. And at the beginning of 2023, I was at the lowest point of my life. I was extremely depressed, hadn't really released any music for real in a long time. I only released one song. Um, but most of all, I was spiritually and emotionally bankrupt, and financially as well. In March, March came around 2023, and I only had one more payment of my rent left in my bank account. So I was at this crossroads. I either had to quit using, or I would become homeless and eventually die. I felt like I was dying. So on the 27th of March, I started fighting for my life. I have been clean ever since. Um, the year that followed wasn't very easy, especially the first few months, because I was going through withdrawal, which was hard. Not a lot of sleep. I was going crazy. Felt very naked for some reason. But slowly and surely, I was building my life back up. Just the basics, living a life without using. And after a couple of months, I started to find the energy to finally pick up where I had left off. In the years I just described, I developed myself. I wrote a lot of music. The feelings I had to go through turned into some of my best songs, waiting to be released still. I had developed myself at school as an entrepreneur in music, and when I got sober and went through the withdrawal period, I started to realize that everything that I had done and everything that I had felt wasn't in vain. So um, here I am making this video about starting over. While I'm not really starting over, I learned a lot. Um, I am now someone that's able to love himself, to live a life and have fun without using drugs. I'm in a position where I can finally pursue my dream again. Um, I have relationships that I don't push away, and so much more. So why am I making this video? I'm making this video, of course, to promote myself as an artist, but most of all, I'm making this video in the hopes I will inspire someone to start or continue their journey towards their dream, whatever it is. I happen to be a musician. You maybe, I don't know, you want to be a businessman, maybe you want to lose a lot of weight. I don't know. but I want to tell this story to inspire someone. Um, I went through a lot, and I'm now convinced that everything that I went through was necessary for me to become the person that I am now. Um, this might sound crazy and even a little messed up, but nowadays I'm grateful that my dad got sick. I'm grateful I got addicted to weed. I'm grateful I lost everything, because if my dad didn't get sick, I don't think I would have committed to my dream at all, or maybe very late, and would have suffered a lot. Uh, um, if I didn't, if my addiction didn't take over and put me in hell for a long time, I don't think I would be sober now. Because if it seemed that I could control my usage, maybe I would still be addicted. Um, and most of all, I realized that life is too short not to pursue your dream. So yeah, that's why I'm making this video. If you want me to go in depth about one of the topics that I talked about in this video, please let me know. I I don't know, I have some experience with stuff, with pursuing dreams, with addiction, with depression, with losing a loved one. Um, if you want to listen to my music, you can find it on most streaming platforms. Also on my YouTube channel. So just click on on my channel and you'll find the music. And I'm also starting to develop this brand, Hellevated, with which I want to push people to do the hard stuff in life, to pursue their dreams. Like I said, if it's a dream about music, writing, drawing, painting, being an artist, or losing weight, or whatever's keeping you from experiencing happiness or a fulfilling life, just start doing it. It will hurt. It will hurt like a bitch. Trust me. But it will make you happy. Like, yeah, I can't explain. You have to experience that stuff, but it is going to be hard. And that's what I want to do with Hellevated. You can find it at hellevated.com. You can support me through there by buying some of the merch. There's also a little thing about me as Zorro. And I don't know. I hope this video will somehow help you in a way, or inspire you, or just has entertained you for a while. I don't know. So I'm gonna leave it at this. That's why I'm not really starting over. I'm just continuing. And you don't have to start over as well. So, yeah, good luck.